prediction coming out of the gates, but it's only been one game, Panda. You know, there are a lot of games left to play. I did actually get a glimpse of where Vortex and Janice were at, which is actually my prediction. I believe they were in like 43rd place, so definitely not ideal. But like I mentioned, 3 games left to play, and these players, if there's anything that they're good at, it's adapting, right? So a bad first game, make a couple adaptations, and you come into the second one even stronger than you did the first one, and you can come out with a nice victory out and boost yourself all the way up that leaderboard very, very quickly.
Absolutely. And the leaderboard is what's important here as these players load into the battle bus and start to take off. This is going to be exciting because now this is the opportunity for these players to adapt, change up maybe some mistakes that they made in game number 1, and really come out on top here coming out of game number 2. But let's see where these players are landing. Let's see how they spread across this map, because like we saw before, it was not necessarily a very even spread, but these players are looking to kind of get as much space or utilize as much space as they can. So it'll be interesting to see where these players land. But looking here, it does look like we might have a little bit more action here towards the sanctuary and towards the islands outside of the sanctuary. So I'm excited to see how that action takes place, because that water is wide open.
Yeah, a lot of those wide open areas aren't your best friend either, especially in this game mode, right? Because you don't have any cover. So if you put yourself in, swimming across the ocean, there's not a lot of things out there that you can hide behind. And I was actually taking a look there as we were looking at that map. Vortex and Janice do seem to be landing actually north of Sleepy Sound. So we'll kind of have to keep an eye on the elimination feed, kind of see how that goes for them, because as I did mention, they did not have an ideal first game. But over at Condo Canyon, we have Vadil and Noah Riley alongside Basin and Senna. And Basin and Senna actually had a great first game. We saw them in the end game. I think they ended up in like the 3rd position on the leaderboard or something like that, but we did see them in the game, so surely they have a lot of points. How do you think this game can change up for Vadil and Noah Riley so that way they can do better?
I think they, in game number 1, like you talked about, they're aggressive players, right? They always have been aggressive players. They need to be a little bit more mindful of what they do with their aggression, right? They have to be a little bit more strategic in the way that they're going to rotate as well, because, again, for a team that is so notable and they know how to play this game at a very high level competitively in the standard build mode, zero build is very, very different. So they're going to have to adapt here. But speaking of adapting, it's Pink. Anas has gone down. Pink having to clean up, and does clean up. Another elimination on the board here for Pink, and Anas is back in the game.
Nice. Very, very close. That player actually, Kirwall there, trying to make a shockwave play, actually just going to try to break those builds, kind of fly in there, and it looked like he was actually going for the elimination on the knocked player rather than for that head-on-head fight there, and did not work out for him, and didn't actually even get the elimination, as we see Pink and Anas back up together as a duo. So a quick couple eliminations for them in the early game will be very, very helpful. And thinking about it now, Storm Surge is actually a factor, and actually Bad Sniper here, after a first great game, is going to be getting taken out by Pickle here, and he is on the hunt after DKS here. And Pickle's actually going to hop in the passenger seat. Oh my goodness, wait, DKS is insane. He sees that Pickle gets into the passenger seat, pulls up to another car, gets out of that car, gets into the new car, and speeds off. Panda, what was that?
That was wild. That's what that was. That was crazy. The way he just slowly, he saw that he was about to start taking tags here from Pickle. Immediately jumps out of that car into another car and just runs away and was able to get away. I'm impressed.
That was genius. It was so fluent too, right? It was like it happened in the blink of an eye. That was crazy. That was like the highlight of the tournament so far, in my opinion.
Thanks.
Well played to DKS there. Unfortunately, he's going to be a solo, but keeping it alive there with that fantastic play.
Yeah, keeping it alive. And that's what it's going to boil down to. Even if you lose a teammate here, sometimes it's kind of an advantageous position to be in. When I played in a recent tournament here with zero builds, I lost my teammates, but I was able to use the natural cover to stay into the final moments, and then I ended up getting a couple eliminations and coming in a top 5, which was just huge for the leaderboard. So that's what you have to focus on. Even if you're down a teammate like Pasma is here, you have to just focus on finding cover, staying patient, and staying alive.
He's making a run for it. I think the team knows that he's somewhere in the area, and they are going to be actually seeing him make a cross over to this bush, but this player actually only has the combat SMG, which is not good from range. He is actually going to be investing a shockwave into this chase, kind of putting some tags down, maybe trying to break that overshield. Oh, he is getting some good shots in. Pasma is in trouble here. He's going to be finding some cover, but it looks like that cover might be breakable. But those metal cars, they do have a lot of HP. Pasma does not. These shots are going to be heard potentially from Raiden off in the distance. Maybe even Lechy can hear them. But no, Andy is actually going to be picking up that elimination there. Surprisingly so with that combat SMG. Not necessarily the best weapon from range, but it does get the job done there.
It does. But again, like from that distance, you're kind of weighing the pros and cons here, right? Obviously, the damage is super important to have. However, your ammo is equally, if not more important, in a situation in a game mode like this. So they need to be a little bit more mindful of that going into all of this. But it's Andretta and Tripperin who are hanging out here in Sleepy Sound. But I see your pick right over the water there. Maybe this is why we didn't see them have necessarily the best game one. It's because Andretta was here, but it looks like they're definitely taking a different approach and they're focusing on staying alive.
Yeah, I can't believe, checking out that leaderboard, they were like 43rd, right? Which means that they were one of the first teams to go down. But then this game, it seems that they have the north side of Sleepy Sound, like pretty much uncontested. So maybe they just made like an overzealous play on Andretta last game. They kind of like learned their lesson. So now they're kind of just chilling out. They're happy with the loot that they got. Yeah. But it does create some weird situations, right? Because when you do land all the way north of the map, the zones are going to go south, right? Like, not every single zone is going to go all the way up here. So the fact that Andretta and Tripper are right to the south, they do kind of cut that rotation off, and it can be pretty annoying sometimes. So maybe something happened along the lines of a weird rotation, but nonetheless, Vortex and Janus looking like they're in a really good position. So we'll keep in check with them to see how they do.
Yeah, I think they have an understanding of how to play this, right? Basin, Stenna, two players that we saw there in the end game. We saw them with vehicles. Now find themselves in zone using cover very well, but no vehicle in sight. So this could be a big oversight for them if they're not careful, because we saw how impactful having that really is. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But now Sly and Vox both riding around in the vehicle here and going into Storm. A bit of a risk there, but no. Mentioned that rocket play earlier. That was the one. Noah Riley just used it himself. He jumped up, shot the rocket, and it actually acted as if it was just a standard rocket launcher. So you already know the top pros here in the space. They know how to play it, and they're doing a good job at that. But Stenna and Basin now looking to clean up that elimination from Vidil, but Noah Riley still in it.
Yeah, impressive that he doesn't, know pan his little trick there. But Vidil does go down, regardless of knowing that little trick. And look at this spot. Kovacs and Xerox, they are more than happy to kind of chill out here, but the zone will actually pull away from this blimp, so they will have to make a rotation. And the good thing about these blimps is that you can kind of use those fans that are on the outside to kind of glide yourself away over to the next zone. So they always do have that in their back pocket, but there is a team under them which could create some weird situations where they both try to rotate at the same time. And Hellfire looks like he used a little cannon there, kind of take a shot up. So now Kovacs is like, let's go ahead and destroy this so that can't happen again. He's close.
Hey, listen, it's close. It is. Listen, those siege cannons, man, they definitely have made an impact here in both zero builds and competitive. So seeing them focus on either utilizing them or removing them, as we saw in that situation, it's smart. It's definitely the play to do. But the zip lines, they're always there for you. They're always your friend, and that's what we see Scram and Hellfire taking advantage of as they dive into the semi here, not only with the Chonkers tires, but also with the cow catcher. So that is just a building demolishing machine. So if we see them go into a POI with some players in it, it could end up being a weapon in itself as they end up barreling through anything in their path.
You know, that was an interesting situation there. Xerox actually saw them leave, and he was just like, oh, listen, I'm just going to let them leave. And then Hellfire was like, nah, actually, I'm going to take some shots at you. So then Xerox started shooting at him. A little bit of a funny situation because Xerox obviously has, in my opinion, a better advantage point in that situation. But Vortex actually picks up an elimination in the elim feed, so that's good to see. As Xerox put some good shots down there on Vokes, who actually picks up the elimination. And listen, Panda, I said it earlier, tank over battle bus all day, and I think this is really putting a highlight on that point.
Absolutely. I mean, you're right. The way that the tank lays, it's harder to hit shots on the players. Whereas that battle bus, you're wide open. You're on the top and on that skinny little battle bus, and you kind of stick out too against that blue color. So you have to be careful in the way that you play it out. And that's a perfect example why you need to be careful there. But looking at the players remaining, so many big names still in this game, so many players actually outside of the zone. And honestly, this has been kind of a strategy as well here in the zero build meta, is that you need to make sure that you're playing the outskirts of zone, following the storm in, but also doing it in a way that you're not going to run into players right on the edge of zone either. So you have to be super careful in the way that you play that out. But we see players like Joel and Bill and MXer, they're playing it just like that, or just the opposite, I should say. They're in zone, they're needing surge tags, and unfortunately, all the players, they're outside of zone.
You know, it's very, very interesting. I feel like, you know, we've seen plays before, you know, with builds being in Fortnite where players will kind of play in the zone sometimes, but usually it's like one team, right? And they're kind of playing for a reboot. Maybe they're like a solo or a duo trying to pick up their teammate, you know, something like that. But in this game mode, there's usually a lot more teams, even if they're like a full team kind of just chilling out in the zone or in the storm. And it's really got to play on these minds, right? Because if you're kind of like on the edge of the zone, you really got to look towards the storm and make sure that you're not getting flanked, because there are just so many people that kind of hang out in the storm.
There are 100%. It is likely more people on the edge of zone and near storm than there are in the circle right now. So you have to be super mindful of that, and I think that's why players like Jaron and Pickle, they get in and they're easy targets as well, because again, there's not too many players rotating around. But with Kyrie here on the edge of zone, they're going to be able to potentially connect some shots here on any players in the region.
Yeah, these buildings are definitely advantageous to have, right? It's not the easiest thing in the world to destroy these buildings or kind of like siege them, right? Because you don't have builds to kind of approach the building, and you know that whoever's in these buildings is just going to want to protect it like a fortress. So they are usually safe once they get inside, but you know, things like windows, right? You can't block them off. So it could create some situations. As you can see, the mantling coming into play there, right? It does allow you to get on some different angles than you would not be able to if you weren't actually able to mantle in a situation where you couldn't build. So really, really cool mechanic that does allow for some unique situations. But man,
definitely
listen,
does.
If you're just kind of chilling out, right, in one of these buildings, like, what is your game plan? Like, what are you doing? Are you looking towards the next zone? Like, are you looking for these tags? Trying to remove some people?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question, right? So if Surge is active, then yeah, you need the tags. But if Surge isn't a factor, you need to be in that building and kind of just be patient. We actually saw how taking tags from a building actually didn't work out in their favor, because someone lit the building on fire, and now the focus of the building is who can knock it out with the vehicle first. So you have to be super careful there, because ultimately you're putting a target on your back if you're not being mindful of the shots that you're taking and the amount of players that are around you.
Yeah, very good point there. And that cow catcher on that truck making quick work of that building, actually. Very good play. One player was actually in the truck and the other was outside, so they were trying to do some duo play action where one kind of took out all the builds and the other one took some shots. And they almost picked up Lechy, but they do quickly get in the whiplash and get out of there and go off in the distance and kind of heal up. So this team does actually have full control of this building, but there are plenty of other teams around them that are also enjoying the comfort of having their own building.
Yeah, I agree. And it's actually pretty nice to see Lecce, one of the controller goats, in a lobby like this. Yeah, we've seen Lecce take a little bit of a break here from the competitive scene, and now back at it in the zero build mode and doing well so far. So see if he can keep up that momentum here going into these games. But now, again, utilizing the buildings. But no, of course, the caster's curse comes out. Lecce eliminated along with his teammate as he rotates into a building where Pickle and Jaron are just there waiting.
Yeah, and this is interesting. Jaren actually has 3 weapons. I feel like in no builds you usually see like sometimes even 4 like meds, right? Or 3 utility items and only 1 weapon, but he actually has 3. So that is an interesting approach, but they do have a total of 3 eliminations, so maybe it is working out for them in the elimination category at the very least.
Well, think about it like this, right? When you get into some of these fights, a lot of times you have to reload a weapon. So having a whole nother weapon to use as a backup is a huge advantage in itself, especially in a mode where, like you mentioned, most people are carrying only 1 to 2 weapons. So I could definitely see that playing a factor in the why and the reason as to why they're getting so many eliminations. But we've actually seen it in the build mode as well, where players are only carrying 1 to 2 weapons, mainly 2, but then the remainder are all heals. So maybe some of these pro players are used to playing it like that, and zero build just kind of it's a little bit different. I don't know what the case may be, but there's a lot of players that are going to have to quickly adapt here as this game continues to go on.
We have a little bit of a truck meetup going on the side of this little cliff here. But I feel like so far, right, like I see that there are these 3 trucks kind of hanging out, but a lot of the teams are actually, you know, chilling in buildings this time around. So hopefully not as many vehicles in the end game as we saw last time, because let's be honest, right? There was just so many vehicles that there wasn't a lot of coordinated play going on. It was just a lot of chaos, right? But this time it seems like there's going to be less trucks, but maybe, you know, people have them hidden and are keeping them safe, so that way we do get another end game like that.
Yeah. You know, this probably gives you flashbacks, Vivid, to Chapter 1. It has to, right?
Why?
The planes, like now it's just trucks. But
you know, the trucks though, they don't have, you know, weapons on them, and they don't fly, right? And you know what I mean. So maybe it's not as
quite
bad.
as bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right, to be honest. But speaking of bad, man, it's Cito and K-Crow who are cry there that they had been utilizing the buildings for so long to stay alive, and ultimately they end up going down to Cammy, who is in this game, I believe, with SETI. Yep, there you go. Yeah. The underbridge team here doing a good job utilizing those cow catchers and getting some much needed tags on the players all around them. But now it's the truck meetup. The truck meetup. Well, I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 vehicles here, Vivid.
Whew. And could you imagine if they all just like coordinated some push with all of those vehicles at one time? Be like a mob. But listen, you know, what's crazy about Fortnite is a lot of times we'll talk about like the meta of the game, but the meta of the lobby is something that actually is a real thing, right? Like over the course of these games happening with like set lobbies and these same players over and over again, there happens to be the situation where the meta of the lobby and these specific players joining up and landing and interacting with each other in a certain way kind of creates a dynamic, and all these players are aware of how well and how chaotic these vehicles made the previous endgame. So now they might be a little bit more aggressive towards some of these vehicles, try to remove them. But look at this overview right here. I still see a tank, the battle bus, a couple cars, a couple trucks, and that's with these players trying to actually remove them.
Yeah, I mean, look, Andretta cleaning up 1, but not going to be able to clean up the second, man. That's tough. It's a tough situation to find themselves in, and unfortunately, not only did they find themselves in it, but they're going to go down, but not without getting an elimination first. So, you know what? I'll take it, right? That's definitely a high effort play in general. But speaking of high effort plays, it's Mirza diving into the tank, trying to stay alive here, as another player is guiding the direction of the tank. And there it is. The shots are coming out here onto the player that's close by. Does end up getting the knock here, which is going to be super important. 5 eliminations on the board is already huge enough. You pick up another one and a refresh. Man, this could be a really solid game here for Mirza.
Yeah, picking up their shockwaves right there. Looking at the Elim feed, Vortex does pick up an elimination, so they are alive in this game. I believe they were in a truck, so we'll have to see how that pans out. But Dan and Nako, they are also in a truck doing very, very well. Both of them pretty much at full HP and full shields with shockwaves at the ready. As Reckons actually makes his way down here as a solo, he's going to be putting himself in an awkward situation. Not a lot of places to go. Dan and Nako are kind of like either unaware that he's on the back of their truck. Like he is sitting on the back of it right there, right behind them. Look, they're like teaming, not actually teaming, but they are just making a group effort right now. And I don't even know if they are aware. They are all just shooting at the same exact target. This is hilarious.
And Janice is actually now the target of all this pressure here. Coming in from Storm. And it's actually Stenmo picks up Janice, and then Redkins here actually picks up Stenmo. So just player after player dropping here in the final moments of this game. But it's okay, because Dan, Nako, and Redkins still have their truck. And that's all that matters.
He knows he's there. I can't believe they haven't made the decision to get out and just pick up this quick elimination. Like 2v1, surely it ends very, very fast. But look at this. They're just chilling. Okay, newly formed trio in the making right here. Oh man.
Oh man, indeed. I mean, look at all the loot around here, right? So these players have everything they could possibly need. Look, I was about to say, listen, if you're not going Dan, yeah, you're trying to shake this kid off. You don't want him on your truck. Like, this is not what you... They're trying to also not be the focus of this tank that's approaching here.
Man.
As Frey and Stompy up just above them, just pressuring them down below with the tank. I believe this is actually the last three teams.
Yeah.
It's a solo and two duos here. Reckon's trying to make the play up top. Definitely gets deleted here by Stompy and Frey. And now it's a 2v2 situation. The bus, or the tank versus the truck here. And it looks like your pick, the tank, is a clear winner in this as they take out Nako in the final moments to get the win here for Frey and Stompy.
You know, technically, they didn't hop out and they didn't get that elimination on Rikens, but, you know, chilling out in the truck did end up netting them that second place. So, you know, it was a good play in that regard at the very least. You know, maybe they were very, very worried about making a risk, you know, hopping out. But, I mean, man, that Elim looked so free, you know, considering the circumstances. They know there's only one duo left. I would have just went for the Elim, and you would have got second place and the Elim at the same time.
Second place in an Elim. I mean, look, you kind of have to be patient, right, in situations like that. But